my family's been going to sea since the 1630s, probably. And in fact, there was a bunker in the crews of the people that repelled the Spanish during the Armada invasion of England in the 1580s. I think I was 8 years old. I was on a collier. My dad was the chief, and I was the ship's boy, essentially. I got $3 a week. But we used to get into New York, and I would go ashore with the scullery crew or the messmen, and they would buy groceries. Well, once we'd loaded up this day particularly, the guys that were all feeling, getting a little dry on the throat, so before they went back to the ship, they wanted to slake their thirst a little bit. They had a favorite gin mill they would go to, and they kind of cut me loose on the street. And I had seen down the street there was a cannon sitting on the sidewalk. And I thought, oh, that's neat, I want to go see that. Well, it turned out to be an historic arms dealer who dealt in all kinds of antique weaponry, antique arms, armor, great stuff. And he had a barrel full of swords. And he took a shine to me, and he gave me a sword for whatever money I had in my pocket, which I think was probably $4 or $5. It wasn't a lot of money. So I took the sword and went to found the guys in the bar, and went back to the ship. And as I was going up to my father's cabin to show him my new sword, somebody stopped me in a passageway and said, "Boy, what do you got?" And I said, "I got this nice sword." Well, I sold it to him. I sold it to him, I think, for $20 or $25, which was all the money in the world, for a young kid in those days. So that was my first sale, and I've been doing it ever since. I come from a long line of crafty Mainers. Most Mainers in the old days, working people, had to do 5 things to make a decent living and to raise a family. My father used to say, if your hands can do what your mind envisions, then life will always be good for you. You'll always have some money in your pocket, you'll always have a meal, you can always take care of your family. So make your hands do what your mind envisions, and the rest will be easy. When I got a little older, I was too old to be a ship's boy and too young to get a Z card as a merchant seaman, so I ended up working on fishing boats and charter boats down in Florida and shrimpers. And then I worked a couple of big schooners, and sail caught me at that point, and I only worked big ships, freighters and so forth, a few times after that, and the rest of the time has been pretty much on the sail. In the 1820s, 1830s, when the old sailors were retired and had lost a limb, of course they didn't have the programs like they have now, but you could get a government-issued leg. And these were used right up into the Civil War. And of course, after that, modern prosthetics began to come in, but that was used for many years. I went to Vietnam. I was in Vietnam for a year, and that was enough. Vietnam changes everybody. Anybody that went to Vietnam, particularly in a combat arm, you're never going to be the same again. So I couldn't wait to go back to sea after 3 years. A job in my life was a 2-week job was a career. But whatever I was doing, I was a blacksmith, short order cook, I did all these crazy jobs. But I always ended up with a sea bag on my back. I always ended up going back on the water. And I'm not the old man of the sea. There are much better ship handlers out there than I am. There are people with, multitude of years and miles of experience at sea that I'll never have. Well, they had this locker here. There used to be stacks of lobster traps. And when I would come to Maine, back in the 70s, and well into the 80s, and I would take the lobster traps that were here, and I would rearrange them a little bit so I could get right in the middle of the lobster traps. And I always carried my sea bag with me. And I would lay my sea bag down as a pillow, and I would have a nice jacket I could put over me, and I would sleep here at night. Because I had enough money to come up here and to kick around and to pay, buy gas, but I didn't have enough money to buy hotel rooms. And so this was where I stayed. Everybody has their own astrological sign. Well, mine, I was born under the sign of the Scrouge. I keep salvaging and gathering things, and they have to go somewhere, so it piles up all around me. In Baltimore, they hired me as the curator of Inner Harbor Historic Properties and Exhibits, which is a $2 title for the city's maritime historian. Baltimore was a great town to find stuff in those days because they were closing a lot of the old shipyards, and so all kinds of great stuff was coming to light. And I began gathering it, and I'd been gathering stuff for years for other dealers. So I thought, why don't I just do my own shop? With this sword, it's probably late 18th or early 19th century. This was used to execute pirates on the beach at Hong Kong. In 1897, a large group of pirates were beheaded on the beach. They were called the Namoa Pirates, and I still have photographs of it. And when the Japanese invaded China during the fight leading up to World War II, and they used it to execute prisoners. And this was being used up until it was surrendered to the American Army, Japan, in 1945. The years went on, and I had the business going, and I was doing quite well. And friends of mine, they took me off to a bar, and I met this nice girl. And we just hit it off. And so we ran off to the Caribbean together and spent some time and formed kind of a bond. I just wanted to come home. I wanted to come back to Maine. And Sharon said, "You're going to Maine, I'm going with you." So we both came to Maine. I found a house. I found a 225, 250-year-old house here in Maine. And finally, after being together for 30, 35 years, we finally got married. It's the best thing I ever did. We set up over on Dana Street where the chandlery had been for Chase Levitt and Company, an old marine business. But they eventually had to sell the building. When they sold the building, of course, we were out. So we closed up downtown about 10 years ago. And I worked out of the barn here for some time. But we never really set up a store here. The idea was to build another building on the other side of the house. And I built the barn. And of course, we had this 240-year-old house or whatever it is. And we built the barn that kind of went with it. But I built that as workshop and studio. So that's where I do my painting. That's where I do the restoration work. But I always have things to fix. I always have things to restore. Also, I still do carving. I still occasionally do a ship's figurehead. I do name boards for ships. Lately, I've been restoring 17th and 18th century firearms. That's just kind of weird, but I love the technology of it. I love the primitive technology. Does a ship have soul? The ship by itself, no, it doesn't. It has what you put in it. It has what people put in it. It has what it does and how it changes life around them. It's only just a bunch of wood and metal. if that's what you let it be. There's a stack of telescopes over here, including probably the oldest telescope in America. The things those scopes have seen, they can't tell you, but when you get to know them, and when you end up using them, when you end up researching them, finding out more about them, when you end up restoring them, that's when you get to know them. And you realize that the soul that ships and artifacts and tools have is largely what you and I put in them. History is so important. We need to know what the past was for our own future. The material culture of the past, the things that we've created, are pretty important for where we're going.
A sea maid sings on yonder reef, the spellbound seals draw near.
This is from Youth by Joseph Conrad. We all began life in the merchant service. Between the five of us, there was the strong bond of the sea, and also the fellowship of the craft, which no amount of enthusiasm for yachting, cruising, and so on can give, since one is only the amusement of life, and the other is life itself.